Let me ask you a profoundly difficult question. If I handed you the keys to a stunning, architecturally brilliant home right now, completely free and clear, but the catch was that you had to permanently sever your connection to the modern world, would you do it? Would you give up your municipal water, your endless supply of grid electricity, and your connected suburban neighborhood to live entirely off-grid in a remote Dogtrot house? For most of our lives, we are sold a very specific version of the American dream. It involves a 30-year mortgage, a manicured lawn, and a silent agreement that we will pay utility companies every single month until the day we die, just to keep our lights on and our water flowing. We trade our ultimate freedom for absolute convenience. But right now, an entire movement of people is waking up and deciding that the trade is no longer worth it. They are abandoning the grid. And interestingly, when they look for the perfect architectural vessel to facilitate this ultimate escape, they are not choosing massive concrete bunkers or tiny houses on wheels. They are choosing the historic, brilliant two-pavilion layout of the Dogtrot house. Today, we are going to explore the raw, unvarnished reality of what it actually takes to live off-grid in a modern Dogtrot. We will break down the engineering of solar independence, the mechanics of harvesting your own water, the reality of off-grid waste management, and the psychological shift required to survive without the safety net of city utilities. This is not a romanticized fairy tale. This is a masterclass in architectural survival. So, sit back, clear your mind, and ask yourself, would you give up the house you have now for the absolute freedom of the off-grid Dogtrot? Before we look at the breathtaking architecture, we have to look at the psychological reality of the trade. Going off-grid is not a vacation. It is a fundamental rewiring of how you interact with the planet. When you live in a grid-tied house, you are a passive consumer. If you are cold, you twist a plastic dial on the wall, and a massive, invisible infrastructure burns fossil fuels hundreds of miles away to push warm air into your living room. You never think about where the energy comes from. You never think about where the water goes when it washes down the drain. You are completely insulated from the consequences of your consumption. When you move into an off-grid Dogtrot, that invisible safety net vanishes instantly. You become the CEO of your own utility company. You are trading convenience for absolute sovereignty. If you leave the lights on and drain your battery bank, the power company cannot help you. You simply sit in the dark until the sun comes up. If there is a drought, you take shorter showers. You become acutely, intimately aware of the weather, the seasons, and your own resource limits. For some, this level of responsibility sounds like a suffocating burden, but for the people making this trade, it is the ultimate liberation. It is the profound, deeply satisfying realization that you are entirely self-sufficient. You cannot be affected by rolling blackouts, municipal water main breaks, or skyrocketing utility rate hikes. You own your energy. You own your water. You own your survival. And the Dogtrot house is uniquely historically engineered to make this challenging lifestyle incredibly successful. If you are going to sever your ties to the electrical grid, you cannot build a traditional, bloated suburban house. A standard home requires an astronomical amounts of electricity just to run the massive central air conditioning system needed to cool its deep, poorly ventilated rooms. If you try to run a standard HVAC system on a solar array, you will go bankrupt buying lithium batteries. This is why the Dogtrot is the crown jewel of off-grid architecture. It was invented over a century ago to keep humans alive and comfortable in the sweltering heat before electricity even existed. By splitting the home into two narrow pavilions connected by an open-air breezeway, the Dogtrot maximizes cross-ventilation. Every single room has windows on at least 2, if not 3 sides. When the ambient breeze funnels through the central corridor, it compresses and speeds up, a physical phenomenon known as the Venturi effect. This high-speed draft pulls hot, stagnant air out of the adjacent living quarters. By relying on the brilliant geometry of the house to provide passive aerodynamic cooling, off-grid homeowners can entirely eliminate the need for power-hungry central air conditioning. You are replacing mechanical cooling with architectural intelligence. This drastically reduces the size and the cost of the solar system required to run the home. When you give up the grid, you have to capture your own power, and the roof of a Dogtrot house provides the perfect canvas. Because a Dogtrot features a single, continuous roofline that spans both pavilions and the central void, it offers a massive, uninterrupted surface area. If the home is oriented properly, facing true south, that sweeping roof becomes a monumental solar collector. Modern off-grid Dogtrots utilize advanced monocrystalline solar arrays that generate massive amounts of direct current electricity. But generating power is only half the battle. Storing it is the true challenge of off-grid living. This requires a dedicated, climate-controlled power room. In a Dogtrot, this utility room is often brilliantly placed at the rear of the open breezeway, acting as a central hub between the two living pavilions. Inside this room lives the battery bank. We have moved far beyond the days of dangerous off-gassing lead-acid batteries. Today, off-grid homeowners use lithium iron phosphate batteries. They are incredibly stable, last for thousands of cycles, and can be discharged deeply without sustaining damage. Paired with heavy-duty hybrid inverters, which convert the direct current from the sun into the alternating current needed for your appliances, this system provides seamless, silent power. You can run your lights, your laptops, your well pump, and your refrigerator entirely on sunshine. You trade the monthly electric bill for the upfront capital cost of the system, but once it is paid for, the power of the sun belongs entirely to you. Giving up municipal electricity is one thing, but giving up municipal water is a terrifying prospect for most people. Water is life. Without a reliable, safe water source, your stunning off-grid Dogtrot becomes an unlivable monument. While drilling a deep well is the standard solution, many remote, rocky, or arid locations make drilling prohibitively expensive or physically impossible. The ultimate off-grid solution is rainwater catchment, and once again, the Dogtrot's expansive, continuous metal roof is the hero. Metal roofs are ideal for catchment because they are incredibly clean, shedding water rapidly without leaching toxic asphalt chemicals like standard shingles. For every inch of rain that falls on a 2,000 square foot Dogtrot roof, you can capture roughly 1,200 gallons of water. The system works through brilliant passive gravity. The rain hits the roof, flows into oversized gutters, and travels down downspouts. Before the water enters the storage tank, it passes through a first flush diverter, a simple mechanical pipe that captures the first few gallons of rain, which washes away leaves, dust, and bird droppings. The clean water then flows into massive, light-blocking cisterns, preventing algae growth, capable of holding thousands of gallons. When you turn on your faucet, a small, highly efficient 12-volt DC pump pulls the water from the cistern, pushes it through a sequence of sediment and carbon filters, and blasts it with an ultraviolet light purifier to kill any bacteria. The result is drinking water that is softer, purer, and entirely free of the harsh chlorine and fluoride chemicals found in city tap water. The kitchen is the largest consumer of energy in any home. If you attempt to use a standard electric oven, an electric water heater, or an electric clothes dryer on a solar system, you will instantaneously overload your inverters and crash your power grid. Living off-grid requires a complete restructuring of your culinary life. In an off-grid Dogtrot, the kitchen must transition away from high-draw electric resistance heating. The standard solution is integrating propane. A large buried propane tank can power a professional gas range, a tankless on-demand water heater, and a backup generator for months on end. Propane is incredibly efficient, stores indefinitely without degrading, and provides the instant high BTU heat necessary for cooking and bathing. But the Dogtrot offers a secondary, profoundly unique cooking advantage, the breezeway. During the sweltering summer months, cooking inside your highly insulated kitchen pavilion traps an immense amount of heat, making the space incredibly uncomfortable. Off-grid homeowners brilliantly solve this by moving their heavy cooking outside to the covered void. By installing a robust outdoor kitchen on the breezeway deck, complete with a wood-fired oven, a propane grill, or a heavy cast iron cooking stove, you keep all the thermal load completely out of your living envelope. It is a historic strategy that makes off-grid culinary life not just manageable, but deeply enjoyable.
We have reached the topic that makes most people abandon their off-grid dreams. What do you do when you flush? When you sever ties with municipal sewage, you must take absolute personal responsibility for your own waste. For many off-grid dogtrots, a traditional, expensive septic tank and leach field is installed. But for those building in remote areas or those committed to hardcore ecological sustainability, the answer is the modern composting toilet. Erase the image of a foul-smelling outhouse from your mind. Modern composting toilets are sleek, odor-free, and scientifically brilliant. They operate on the principle of source separation, diverting liquids away from solids. By keeping the waste separated, you eliminate the anaerobic bacteria that cause terrible smells. The solid waste drops into a sealed chamber where it is mixed with a carbon medium, like peat moss or coco coir. A tiny, virtually silent exhaust fan runs 24/7, pulling air through the toilet and venting it out the roof, meaning an off-grid bathroom actually smells better than a standard city bathroom. Furthermore, off-grid living requires you to rethink gray water, the relatively clean water waste from your showers, bathroom sinks, and washing machines. Instead of dumping this valuable resource into a septic system, off-grid dogtrots utilize simple diversion valves. The gray water is routed safely outside through underground perforated pipes, where it is used to passively irrigate the surrounding landscape, gardens, or windbreak trees. You are closing the ecological loop, turning your daily shower into life-giving water for your land.
Surviving a brutal winter off-grid is a game of thermal mathematics. If you build a massive, sprawling 3,000-square-foot house, you have to burn an unimaginable amount of firewood or propane just to keep it from freezing. The Dogtrot layout provides a supreme advantage in extreme climates: structural thermal zoning. Because the home is literally cut into two separate, fully insulated buildings, you have the ultimate control over your heating footprint. Let's say a historic blizzard rolls in and the temperature drops to 20 below zero. In a standard house, you are fighting to heat empty guest rooms, long hallways, and vaulted dining rooms. In a Dogtrot, you can simply shut down the active pavilion for the night. You retreat to the sleeping pavilion, close the heavily insulated exterior door, and fire up a single high-efficiency wood stove. Because you are now only heating a tiny 400-square-foot heavily insulated box, a few logs will keep the space a sweltering 80 degrees all night long. You are cutting your fuel consumption in half. The physical separation of the Dogtrot teaches you to heat only the space you currently occupy. It is a profound shift in mindset, moving from the American ideal of total, constant house climate control to a localized, highly intentional survival strategy.